The old opera house, the Chrysalis, held its breath. Dust motes danced in the single spotlight beam cutting through the velvet darkness, anticipation thick as the scent of aged wood and nervous roses carried by the audience. Tonight was not just another performance. It was the final bow of Madame Celeste Moon, the legendary soprano whose voice had defined an era. Whispers rustled like dry leaves. A euro could her aged instrument, like the theater itself showing its wear, possibly match the luminous. Memories held so dear, yet reverence filled the air, a collective yearning for one last glimpse of the magic that had once held cities spellbound. Backstage, Madame Moon sat before a cracked mirror haloed by bare bulbs. Her reflection showed the map of a long, demanding journey etched upon her face. A euro, fine lines deepened by countless expressions of joy, sorrow, and soaring high notes. Her hands, usually steady as mountain rocks, trembled slightly as she smoothed the intricate silver embroidery on her simple ivory gown. It was the gown from her debut. Decades ago, a young dresser hovered nervously, but Madame waved her away with a gentle, if weary, smile. The silence here was profound, a sacred space before the storm of music and emotion. She closed her eyes, not in prayer, but to listen to the distant murmur of the crowd, a sound as familiar and vital as her own heartbeat. Now growing fainter with time, the heavy crimson curtain rose with a sigh, revealing not an elaborate set, but an almost bare stage. A single grand piano stood sentinel. The spotlight found Madame Moon standing center stage, seemingly fragile, dwarfed by the vast emptiness. For a long, breathless moment, she simply stood, absorbing the wave of love washing over her from the unseen audience. Then, she nodded almost imperceptibly to the pianist, her longtime collaborator, Maestro Vale. The first, pure, crystal-clear note from the piano hung in the air, and the theater fell utterly silent. It was a note of profound stillness, a prelude to memory. Then, Madame Moon began to sing. Her voice, thinner now, perhaps lacking the sheer, effortless power of her youth, possessed something deeper, more devastating. It was a voice weathered by life, carrying within its tremulous strength the weight of countless sunsets, unspoken losses, and enduring joys. She sang not famous arias demanding vocal pyrotechnics, but older, simpler folk songs woven into lullabies. A euro, songs of love found and lost, of journeys taken, of coming home. Each phrase was a brushstroke painting intimate portraits in the air. Tears glistened openly on cheeks in the front rows. A profound, shared melancholy settled upon the hall, beautiful and heartbreaking as the final song began, a quiet ballad about a weary traveler seeking rest beneath a familiar moon. Something extraordinary happened. Madame Moon seemed to shed years with each note. Her posture straightened, her eyes, previously clouded, blazed with an inner fire. She moved with a sudden, ethereal grace, a slow, poignant dance that was the essence of the music given form. Her hands traced patterns in the air, telling stories without words. The thinness of her voice transformed into an almost spiritual clarity, piercing the heart. It was no longer merely singing. It was the soul laid bare, offering its final, luminous gift. The spotlight caught the silver in her hair, making her glow like the celestial body she was named for. The final note, a soft, sustained whisper of profound peace, faded into absolute silence. It hung there, vibrating in the stillness, more powerful than any applause could ever be. Madame Moon stood perfectly still, head bowed, bathed in the light, looking suddenly ancient again, yet radiantly serene. Then, slowly, she raised her head, offering a small, private smile, not to the audience, but perhaps to the music itself, or the memories conjured. She placed a hand gently over her heart. No grand gesture, just a simple acknowledgement. A single, shimmering tear escaped, tracing a path down her powdered cheek before she lowered her head once more, the image of quiet completion, the curtain descended slowly, gracefully, like a final, gentle sigh. For a moment, the silence persisted, thick with unprocessed emotion. Then, the applause erupted, a euro, not the wild, cheering roar of past triumphs, but a deep, thunderous, rolling wave of pure reverence, gratitude, and shared sorrow. It built and built, shaking the old theater, a sound filled with love and the painful beauty of an ending. They called for her, shouted her name, a unified voice pleading for one last glimpse, one final acknowledgement of the shared moment. The applause echoed on and on, a testament echoing in the vaulted ceiling. But Madame Moon did not reappear. She had given her final gift, poured every essence of her being into that performance backstage. Leaning heavily on Maestro Vale's arm, she moved with a lightness, a burden lifted. She paused only to touch the old stage curtain, a silent farewell. Outside, the night was clear, the moon full and impossibly bright, casting silvery light on the quiet streets. Some swore. Later, they saw a figure, impossibly graceful, walking towards the moonlit river, dissolving into the shimmering path of light on the water. And every time the moon shines particularly bright over the city, especially near the old Chrysalis, people remember Madame Moon's last song, a lullaby of farewell that never truly ends, echoing softly in the heart of the night.